I know protein is good for you, but why are they pushing it to us so much? Like, I'm getting a little bit concerned. I don't have the energy to fight it that much right now.
I wonder why you don't have the energy. Eating healthy is apparently MAGA now, or so says the out to lunch left. Health Secretary RFK Jr. and Ag Secretary Brooke Rollins teamed up to release a new food pyramid as well as new health guidelines that upend what the government has been telling Americans for the past few decades. The holistic health movement has been a thing for a while now. Many people were already on this train of self-educating about nutrition, paying attention to what ingredients they're putting in their body. Some, however, are so blinded by their hatred for this administration that they refuse to accept the new guidelines. They think it's pseudoscience, even if it's backed by a pretty lengthy scientific report. Let's lock in.
It was all politicized science. It was all based upon the mercantile interests of the ultra-processed food companies that had captured FDA. And we've now applied gold standard science. We have the best nutrition scientists from the best universities in this country come together and use real science to design a food pyramid that prioritizes, as you said, proteins, fruits and vegetables, and high fiber grains, and that's what people should be eating, real food. The ultra-processed, we have, because of the old food pyramid, which put Fruit Loops at the top of the food pyramid.
It's amazing how overdue this was, and he's so right that the US taxpayer has subsidized our obesity crisis like crazy. 25% of SNAP dollars, food stamps, go to candy and soda. And part of that reason is because our food pyramid was so warped and distorted. I remember when it said that natural fats like found in milk and avocados was not something that people were encouraged to consume, except it's good for you. It literally goes back to biblical times. Stuff that God made. Right off the tree, right out of the ground. So HHS and the Department of Agriculture created a new website, realfood.gov, which houses all of these new guidelines and research that backs them.
America is facing a full-scale health emergency. More than 70% of adults are overweight or obese. More than half are diabetic or pre-diabetic. Chronic disease touches nearly every single American family. This did not happen by accident. It happened because real food was pushed aside, replaced by highly processed products. Junk food became the foundation of the modern American diet, and we're paying the price with our health. But that ends today. We are resetting how our nation eats. Real food is back at the center of the American diet. Real food that nourishes the body, that restores health, that brings back energy, and that builds strength. This is what it takes to make America healthy again. Under the leadership of President Trump, we are reclaiming the food pyramid and fixing a system that has been broken for far too long. Today, HHS Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and USDA Secretary Brooke Rollins introduced the most significant change to federal nutrition guidance in the history of this nation. This is the new pyramid, Dietary Guidelines for Americans. A national reset built on real food.
Notice how a lot of the foods that were presented in this video were actually appetizing? Like, they look delicious. Just because we are now prioritizing healthy whole foods doesn't mean we can't have really yummy things to eat. It's actually the opposite. If you start eating better and better things that are not modified in a lab, that aren't artificially processed, your body will pretty much reset to only crave the things that genuinely nourish it. Rollins and Kennedy also revamped the original food pyramid, which was made under George H.W. Bush, tossing the original version that was made in 1992. You can see some major differences here, most obviously being that we were told grains should make up the majority of our meal, even though it makes our blood pressure skyrocket. It's plenty of carbs. We don't need that many. That pyramid was supposed to be to scale. Meat was supposed to be a very small portion of our meal, even though that's a ton of protein. Protein is what keeps you energized throughout the day. It's what helps you build muscle mass. Now, not so coincidentally, by the late 20th century, the US had massive surpluses of wheat, corn, rice, and oats. You can imagine what came next. They had to somehow create a market for all that extra grain. So producers, milling associations, and cereal makers had well-funded lobbying arms, and they were very active in the dietary guideline process. That, of course, gave way to those cereal commercials that to this day use part of this complete breakfast in their catchy taglines, even though nobody needs that much grain, especially that early in the morning. America was taught that large portions of carbs were good for them. And as you can see, this wasn't pure capitalism, pure free market food companies doing an amazing job marketing good foods. There was cronyism going on. It was which company can get in front of Congress and aggressively pressure them to make this part of the official guidance that Americans will take as gospel, even when it was misguided. There's a common misconception that RFK flipped the food pyramid, but this is probably better thought of as an equilateral triangle where anything in the triangle can be incorporated in balance. Notice it's all unprocessed whole foods. The RFK pyramid just says keep everything in more of a balance, everything in moderation. And as you can imagine, there's plenty of celebration right now among the MAGA moms and other crunchy types who are way ahead of this curve. Honestly, RFK was just capitalizing on a movement that really started about 10 years ago with the liberal granola types in California, and now I'd say it's a equalizer for both parties. It's kind of a bipartisan cause right now. But there is a deranged and evidently unhealthy left that thinks the Trump White House is silly for doing these new recommendations, even though they're backed by decades of studies, by common sense. To someone who is interested in what they put in their body, this information is actually nothing new.
Just the thought of someone, a conspiracy theorist in such an important, pivotal public health position.
Look, RFK Jr. is a kooky guy. He deep fried a turkey barefoot. He did that thing to that bear in the park with the car, the earworm. Enough said. But the new pyramid is backed by science and scientists. It's actually reminiscent of the Obama administration's My Plate diagram that shows what portion of your meal should belong to what category: grain, fruits, vegetables, and meat. Now, if you want to make the argument that the RFK diagram should be a circle, not a triangle, I see where you're coming from. But if you're crying about the fact that the government put out food guidelines, I have news for you. This isn't new. USDA and HHS is improving upon past guidelines that weren't 100% correct. But of course, TikTok has made jokes out of the RFK guidelines. I don't see the problem. That looks fantastic. Okay, it's primitive. And it's good for you. And there are plenty of Karens who can't read a chart.
So it looks like our glorious leaders' minions have started a new food guide pyramid. And can someone tell me what in holy hell this is? So I myself am firmly convinced that this here is the way of trying to remedy the fact that we're going to be out of Social Security soon. So this is an unscientific dietitian's opinion, especially when you look at that big old hunk of beef with its fat coming through it. And I am not the type of dietitian who thinks fat is evil, okay? That is up there at the top of our food pyramid now. I firmly believe this is the way of fixing the Social Security issue, because if you look back at like the 50s and the 60s, when people lived off of huge chunks of beef with fat marbled through it, they only lived to be in their 50s or 60s. So that is my sinking suspicion here. And again, I am not a dietitian who thinks fat is evil. I promote healthy fats all the time. There is no way beef fat is healthy fat.
Okay, so she's pushing that same narrative that red meat will kill you. I don't think most people agree with this anymore. She seems to be saying it's kind of a recession indicator, this food pyramid, which is actually very self-explanatory. It's so colorful and so easy to read. It could come from the Webkinz website, frankly. I'm not wishing for our elders to die at 60. I don't want our lifespans to be reduced necessarily, but I guarantee that the majority of Gen Z is listening to this and is like, oh, so Social Security will eventually die out. Great, because we were never going to be the beneficiaries of that anyway. We're paying into a system of which we will never see the fruits. And yes, because old people's life expectancy keeps going up. That puts more and more strain on young people to support them through these government subsidies, which are insolvent, by the way. Social Security is insolvent.
This terrible food guide pyramid that's the root of all of our evils, we are redoing it and revamping it. And this is our new system, which is whole foods, which we've been saying. And even My Plate says that you should focus on eating whole foods and unprocessed foods. But okay, yeah, tell me how this is extremely novel and different. Also, you just put a bunch of random foods in a triangle shape. I feel like it doesn't really explain like balance or portions or like what you should be eating. It's just kind of like, yeah, there's food in a triangle.
Have you ever seen the Seinfeld episode where they eat the non-fat frozen yogurt and gain 20 pounds in like 2 weeks? Just saying. Look, her criticism that it should be a circle, maybe not a triangle, is fair. But we did correct the disordered ranking of whole grains at the top. Now it's at the bottom where it should be. Protein is brain food. And yeah, I think most people in America would probably use more protein, less carbohydrates, less bad fats, more good fats that your body processes easier and stays in your system longer. But I'm not an expert, but I do eat a lot of whole foods and I feel pretty good these days since I've switched from all that other crap. And here's someone who has something to say about RFK ending the war on protein.
I know protein is good for you, but why are they pushing it to us so much? Like, I'm getting a little bit concerned. I don't have the energy to fight it that much right now. To like not.
I wonder why you don't have the energy. Yep. It's 100% a conspiracy that the US government is now recommending you eat natural proteins. By the way, you notice how soybeans and other forms of protein are not up there? The types that are derived from plants, I don't believe are on this new triangle because they are not as enduring as meat proteins. And there was a legitimate war on protein pushed by environmentalists and other leftists with charts that explain how much water it takes to make a cheeseburger. Past administrations, like Biden's, gave researchers NIH grants to come up with nonsense like this, where Lucky Charms are ranked healthier than an egg fried in butter. According to the Tufts Food Compass, which they tout as the most comprehensive and science-based nutrient profiling system to date, Lucky Charms are healthier than whole milk, more than twice as healthy as beef, and better for you than a baked potato or cooked green peas. I mean, not only does this defy science, it defies logic. It took 3 years and millions of dollars of NIH funding to tell us that frosted mini wheats and honey nut Cheerios are health foods. You could probably guess what very large cereal conglomerates have big organizations that love to spread money and influence around the halls of power. But I digress. The changes to this food pyramid are a great step on the road to making America healthy again. The fact that we even have to make it healthy again is ridiculous. Europe doesn't have this problem. They're not morbidly obese. But what do you think of the new nutrition guidelines? Did RFK Jr. and the Trump admin do the right thing? Leave your thoughts in the comments below.